Does anyone have any comments to make? I've got on our agenda, first, I plan to appoint committee members to various things, but first, even before that, I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you have questions, comments? Go ahead.
I do have some comments.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Are we ready to begin?
Mhm.
At the last meeting, Kara,
By the way, let me just announce for the record that Amy's here, Mike's here, Kara's here, Lisa's here, and Adam is coming, I think. And so we have one.
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
At the last meeting, Kara asked me to write down and send to her the questions that I had previously brought up at a couple of other meetings.
Mhm.
I started doing that and I kind of realized that we're beyond the questions and sending questions. There's no one here to answer them. I kind of use them, what I had done there, to start writing down what I thought maybe were
Mhm.
areas that we could start looking for savings in here. And I added onto that some things that I think we ought to be doing before we dive into that.
Yes.
And
I'd like to hear that. Hang on, let's go to the preamble for a second. We'll
Yeah.
take this. Let's see if anybody else has anything else want to add to that, or if they all agree, everyone
Yeah.
agrees. I do have the files from Josh, so I've got, well, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. Let me hand out some of these. Again, I didn't make copies for everyone, but I think there's enough. Pass it on to you.
You're probably familiar with all these more than.
You probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Karen,
Probably good to refer to them.
Yeah.
Mike, you too, you probably seen that
Yeah.
stuff too. Actually, if you guys share one, and you should share one.
Yeah.
Do you need one back?
No, I got one.
Okay.
okay.
The copies or the copies of the documents I made are on my flash drive here. If somebody wants to load them into the computer to have one, or if we can do that at some other time. They're not posted anywhere that I know of. I didn't get a chance to ask Josh if they're publicly available or what. No reason not to have them there, but it's a lot of stuff that's deep, you know, and I don't know if it's public.
I think it would be valuable to have it available. I mean,
Mhm.
it seems like the only way to get it to all of us is to make it public.
Mhm.
And it may be more than most people want, but
I can get
It
into
should
that.
be-
I read through
we
about
should be able to
a
get
quarter of
into
it. Mine
that.
are just about crossed.
I think, our biggest battle is not gonna be the budgeting or all that, it's the perception that it was done, we're gonna do it again in a vacuum and not communicate it, so making them publicly
Right,
available.
right. We don't want to do that.
I think is the highest.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna differ with your opinion on that. I think the number one thing was budget, and it wasn't the vacuum. I think people saying that they've asked the same questions for numerous meetings and not having any answers provided was the frustration. And whether that information was because they did not have it accessible, which, one instance, and I'll give you an example, was the snow, the load, sorry, on the post office
Yeah.
was because of snow load, was what Jeff put out in front porch for him to begin with. And so I asked him for the engineering calculations for that, and lo and behold, it wasn't for snow load. So when misinformation is being provided to back up
Undermines.
a
the-
major expense, it undermines.
Yeah.
So budget for me is number one.
Sure, I think I guess my point was, I think that anything, yeah, I think you're right, like as far as challenges, but I think as far as hurdles that we can, lessons learned are gonna be making
There you
everything
go.
publicly available.
Perfect.
All right,
Yes,
that was, yeah,
Lesson
bad
learned.
wording, lesson learned is
lesson learned.
just because,
number one.
yeah,
Yep.
and even if it's for no other reason
Mhm.
Public doc.
than transparency and
Right.
protection.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Yeah.
clarifying
Yeah, yeah.
that, because that was key for me too. They have like the deeper maps, you know, those are pretty intricate, and there's many ones for the whole town. Those are out there. You can pull those down. So I would love it if all those files were under our section of the
Mhm.
website
Mhm.
that said, you know,
Yeah.
Black River documents for the 10 million and 9 point whatever
Yeah, I agree.
proposal, so that we can then refer back to those and say, well, this is,
Yeah, it just, yeah, exactly. So anytime we talk about a document, like, well, it's the document, we have it here, it's also posted. You
Yeah,
wanna review it, or a week from now, you're curious.
Love
something like
that.
And
Very quickly, the budget documents available will probably become obsolete, but nothing else is so fast at the time, but.
Yeah.
One of our mandates, of course, we're gonna get there.
So how do we go about getting these, I'm sorry,
load it up.
is this later on the agenda? Is this something we wanna?
Is it on your,
Is
was
it
it on the agenda? I don't think it was.
It's not, because
Okay.
I wrote this before I had gone through these
Sure.
things, and I had looked at some of the documents really fast, and like, wow. And
Yeah,
it's like the cost spreadsheet, I couldn't even read it, by the time I blew it up, it was.
Actually, this would fall under D,
Okay,
Black
I
River
didn't-
Design Drawing Packet.
Yeah,
I didn't print it out.
So we'll come back to,
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got a copy.
I got-
Oh,
I snagged
okay,
it.
there's a Couple of.
We can
Yeah, maybe share that, I'll share that something. But the, where was it?
Are we still
I
doing,
don't know what,
comments?
I'd like to know what Josh thinks about.
I have another comment that, I don't know, because it's not on the agenda, and I know that I had emailed you about it, was just if you are interested in a report on the work that's been going on in the library, I have the grant information and the sort of what's going on the library building, and we had a trustees meeting on Monday, so.
It's not on the agenda because it evolved since I put the agenda out, last, 2 weeks ago.
But I can update the committee on that if they're interested. I also brought, and I don't know if we'll get to it today, but I can give it to you and you can make copies, Lisa. A packet that Lori Dana and Diane Meyerhoff compiled. She was the grant writer that we worked with. And so this is a list of all of the different grants that we either explored, actually applied for and didn't get, or things that are out there that we didn't apply for yet. And I know you had that on your agenda, so we can use this.
One thing I wanna add, or if we're doing just additions, and
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't put, and I wrote.
I
up the
came in
agenda.
late, so I might have missed
Still
that.
hanging here.
but Matt and I met with his friend Art, who was the project manager that we had briefly talked about last meeting.
Mhm.
His PM on a bunch of the beta build outs, the airport stuff prior to beta, and then also the most consequential for us, I think, was the office, the state office complex.
Mhm.
And so he it was very valid. It was pretty insightful. I mean, we didn't talk about any specifics or anything, but we walked through the building. We talked about where we're at in the process, all the work that's been done, because a ton of work's been done. It's like,
Mhm.
then the hurdles we have going forward and the challenges specifically for budget. And also, just all the, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with just the, all the mechanics of making the project happen too, as far as coordinating people and movement and all that. But anyway, yeah, so I can do an update. Want to just do it now, or should we wait till the,
I got a couple of things that really should come first.
Okay,
So let me
just want to add it to the end to like Jay,
So, yeah,
Sure, yeah.
for the sake of following the agenda.
can I just, I'm going back to our last meeting and just some of the agenda items that we had written up from our last meeting, what would be on this one? And can you let's just make sure they're somewhere on there, if that's the case.
A, B, C, D, and I guess, and or A, B, C, and D, and at the bottom are those items from the previous agenda from, May 8th.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, bear with me as I learn how I have to do it. It's stuff that is, let me go
No,
through the agenda.
those aren't A, B, C, D,
What were your, what were your thoughts, Kara?
we had updates, and review about the documentation and review the status of each assignment. Everybody had assignments that we were given to make sure we presented and complete those. Question, was Mike's questions and answers, so we can just check that off because you're not gonna do that, or did you have other?
Instead of doing the questions, I wrote up the
You'd like to-
4-page document that I really
like to-
wanted to get to the rest of the committee.
Right, so Mike.
And I sent it to Lisa and you sent it back with comments, marked up and so forth, and said we'd be discussing that at the next few meetings.
Yeah.
And then I don't see anything. It never got to anyone. When I asked if it was gonna be distributed, you said no. I don't know how, there's some things that I wrote in there that I think we should do before we dive into the details.
Okay.
One thing Kara asked
Mhm.
at the last meeting for a prioritized list of the safety things.
That's number 3 on our agenda.
I agree with her on that, but I think it should be more than the safety. I think it should be a prioritized list of everything we're planning and everything we're trying to do, the safety would be at the top of it, I think. But I think it appeared to me that the last committee, and I'm only guessing what they have because no one's answered my questions, but they had a list of things that came from people's personal ideas of what they wanted and a lot of public input of what people wanted. And I didn't see anything when I went through the meetings of how that was prioritized. It's just like everybody wants a lot of this, we'll throw it all in. And so I think, I have included in this document that I wrote a start of how I thought that should be broken down, from making a safe workplace down to making everything pretty. So
I'm not looking to do a whole list like that. I strictly asked, what is the list of safety items that the committee has had on a list for the past 5 years? I don't want to reinvent a list. If Black River has not had a list of safety items that they were addressing, there's a difference between remodeling and making something different versus safety. I just want to know the safety to begin with. I know everything else will become massive.
And I don't know what Black River had.
I'm gonna get.
I did list in there what I thought.
Action item for this, I think you're excluded, but we should can we all put a solid effort in over the next, 2 weeks to review all these files? Cause I have a hard time believing that some of the stuff isn't in there. And, it seems like we're talking about it a bunch, and I'll take that on too, to review this and really see if we can find these answers.
Yeah.
And if not, then I
And
fully
we're
agree. with
talking
you.
OSHA defines.
Yeah. And I would like to know if there's something in there, how it's been prioritized, what definition was used and all that, and then we can go from there. And if it's not the definition we want.
Because
we're
if
gonna
we
put it
have something right now that
Yeah.
the OSHA defined safety issue in this building this minute that we should be addressing for the safety of the public and the workers here, I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that are sitting in accounts.
Yeah.
Then why aren't we addressing immediate safety issue? I mean, that's key for me.
Okay, so now I'd like to start the meeting.
Okay.
Per the agenda, I plan to appoint each of you to an area that you choose. You can't all do the same thing, so, maybe one left, somebody has to take by default. But it occurred to me that what I didn't realize in the beginning is we're all kind of like a little kid's soccer team. They're all around the ball, and, where the ball goes, we are, but we can't all do the same thing at the same time. It's a waste of our abilities and time. So we really need, and I think we already agree on this, but I think we need to select an area that we want or that needs to be done the most, each of us different, and be kind of a subject matter expert for our purposes in that. You won't be the architect, you won't be the engineer. No, that work has been done. But at least to know what's in it, what's on page 1 and page 2. And those documents, besides the drawings, if you look at the pages, the written documents, the numerical documents aren't that long. So if each one of us kind of owns that subject that has that document, like the budget layout, the electrical scope, whatever, I think we'll make better progress that way, because we won't each have to think about everything. Like right now we are, and it's a bit overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, it's valuable, yeah.
So,
I can speak for myself, that wrapping my head around all the
it's
stuff
a
Kara's
lot,
pointing out, and then the
Yeah.
physical parts of the building, and then also the, all the stuff that comes along with it.
And
How do we
I
get
think-
aligned is
yeah.
a little overwhelming at this point. So
The budget
I'm an
that was
expert on
presented.
that part of the project, of the
Yeah,
envelope, safety issues and implications and all that stuff, wouldn't, whatever. We kind of advocate for that part of it.
everybody okay with that then? I mean, just.
I think it is, to a degree, I do. I think once we get into really talking about what we're gonna change, I think having a lot of ideas in the pot
Yeah, I
is absolutely essential.
Yes.
So as far as going through and kind of sort out and.
Getting to that point
Yeah.
takes kind of some approaching it from all directions.
Yeah.
I think we might have different approaches to this whole project, and that's where I'm concerned.
Mhm.
I am not looking to refit this project into a different pair of shoes and represent it to the public.
Right.
So what was done before might not be the direction we head in the future. I would like a basic understanding of what was done before based on safety and budget. Those are my two areas that I care most about.
Yep.
And I don't care to delve into the electrical, I mean, if it's a safety issue, then it should be on my list. If it's electrical because we're tearing out the walls and we have to redo the electrical because we want to change the
Right.
layout of the rooms.
Right, well,
I don't
we
agree with
need it,
that.
and
Yeah.
that's pretty much all, you know.
But,
that's starting.
You know, I think. As I tried to say before, I think there are some things that we want to accomplish. And some of what we want to accomplish is to fix the safety issues. Some of we want to make, we've talked in one of the earlier meetings, we want to make space for the current tenants.
I don't know.
Is that a priority? That's something that we need to talk about, whether that's a priority or not. Do we want to make a new space for the police department and fix that up? I'd like to have a consensus of what we want to try to go to before, and
You
that's,
seem to be have thought about this the most, I
I
guess,
have,
maybe
I
not.
have, I have no desire to dream the dream like they did for the last 5 years. I need to know basic information first before I can envision what I think can happen, because if our budget is a certain dollar amount, just like at your house, you need to know what you need to get fixed first before you know if you can afford to add on. And I'm just doing that, not literally add on to this building, but figuratively,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what can we house here? I mean, we have massive space. You've got, I'll give you an example. Josh's office downstairs, it's a classroom. It's not an office. That's not a normal size office. So,
Here,
You've got-
we're getting in the weeds already, Kenny.
yeah.
yes, the
No,
question.
I
Rob's answering the
know
question.
what you mean, yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
As chair,
I can't dream.
I gotta bring up two important points, please, I think we need to think about. First, I've asked the select board, a couple of members, if we can remove the library from the scope of work. And I don't know if that's heresy or not, but it's too big of an elephant for us to eat with the library and the town center.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question about
Sure.
that? So do you mean that this would no longer be the town center and library committee
Yeah.
or do you mean like just for this renovation project, we are not thinking
Well,
of the library as
the lib-
part of the scope?
The library needs to have a life, and I think it deserves a life, an independent life of us.
Well, it's a
If
town
we're-
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but as far as us, 5, 6 people, I don't feel that we can do justice to either one of them, that we're trying to do them together,
I have-
or at the same time. We can do one after the other, or whatever, but I don't think it's realistic.
Okay,
Make the most of it.
so what I'm hearing you say, and I just want to be clear about this, is it's not that like we're now saying, no, now we're only the town center committee.
Yes.
Like we are still going to deal with the library's needs as they come up, but for this project,
I
the
would-
library will be
I would like the
separate.
select board to tell us which way they want to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the library is already undergoing some renovation, repairs and so forth, I mean.
Which
it's
is,
funded.
which has drawn money from the
Yes.
town center fund, which is why I don't think we should give up
Well, that's why I want the
connection with the library.
Yeah,
I don't
please, please, just a minute. That's why I want the select board to make the decision. Select board controls the purse. That money will go this way or that way.
That's
Not
for this-
every
this
direction.
committee for you to ask
Here,
the
don't talk
select
over me.
No, but even if,
Don't talk over me, all right?
okay, so even if there's, some direction that, yes, we are still the town center and library committee, but it's my understanding that the original, it was all pulled together in one committee because there was kind of this idea of like, is it gonna be a campus? Are we gonna tear everything down and build one new building? We're gonna relocate. Now that we've kind of settled on the fact that we're obviously not tearing this all down and building one new building, the library is going
A lot of
to
things-
live as a renovated
Thank
building.
you, yeah.
This is gonna live as some form of renovated building. We can stay town center library committee and refocus on this renovation, with just some clarification on what the scope of that oversight is. Is that reasonable?
That's not what
Yeah.
Lisa is saying.
Well,
She's asking the select board, what I've heard her say is that she's asking the select board to determine if we stay together or if there's some focus broken out. Because I have concerns, we have a library fund and a town center fund, and you've been drawing money for the library out of the town center fund, exactly what Amy's saying right here. So
Yeah.
you can't divide the two.
Right,
And
and the
still
library pays
manage.
into the town center fund.
Correct, so you can't divide, well, doesn't it pay into the library fund?
No, that's, the auditors have just changed that, so going forward, all library revenue is gotta go into the town
Right.
center
Right.
fund, so.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Cause
And I
it,
have a figure of how much that has been in the last few years and how much we anticipate it to
So
be
that
this
sounds like
year.
a more complicated
you can't
question
separate the two.
than we, yeah.
You
So
can't.
it makes sense why we would want to refocus on this, but it seems like both historically, policy wise and financially, that's not reasonable. But maybe some clarification that we are overseeing, it's just some clarification that we are overseeing the library and the town center, in that we are not necessarily overseeing the entire renovation of both buildings at this point. And that's
Right.
our focus. I think that's where.
Well, I think-
But I don't
I
think we
think
know
you
that.
You have to understand where you're at with the library to know
Yeah.
if you want to use the
Yeah.
town center fund. If they planned on using it 2 years from now and you're gonna use it
Right.
all this year.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not planning
I
properly.
fully agree with
So you cannot separate the two. So
Yeah.
select board can try to guide us all they want, but
that.
the money
The money's
And-
money, yeah, it's-
and the responsibility of where you would expect monies to come from for any repairs or maintenance
So
is the same fund.
can we talk about something besides the money? As far as our work, I don't feel we can do a very good job at the same time with both of those. They're big, but they're both.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
I don't
question.
understand the library much.
I agree with
don't
that.
Understand the town center.
And I see how they're
all well
intertwined,
either, so.
but it doesn't seem like we're gonna be able to come up to speed on this building and do all the work we need to do, while also
Yeah.
overseeing anything we need to do on the library, and I guess I'm not sure, we haven't done much with the library and what's being done over there. Is that because the work was already in place, or is that because there's another group of people?
No, that's because the work has already been in
Okay.
progress
Right.
and
Yeah,
Budgeted.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's
I got it.
when I'm thinking, we could hold that up, which isn't really a good thing to do, so it seems to be going somehow.
I think, I don't think
Well-
I get the sense
I
that,
don't know who's doing
I think it's a valuable question, but I get the sense we're not gonna extricate the two from each other.
it.
And we're going to have to oversee the library at some point,
Yes,
so
we should be aware of what's going on.
but it's okay for us to acknowledge that
Okay.
primary focus is this building, and frankly, we're not gonna.
Yes, the
we're
work
not
that
gonna-
Black River is being employed for is
But-
not for the
It's
library
not for the
building, it's for
library,
this.
but
building.
we're
Yeah.
not gonna spend, we're not gonna spend 2 weeks reading every library document, we're gonna focus on this
Right.
building, but we're still working on the library.
All that work's
But-
underway. I mean,
Okay.
they've already got the boilers, the painting and the lighting already scheduled for FY 25 and
Yeah.
26.
But, yeah, I think it would be useful to take Amy up on her offer to give us an overview of what's happening over there.
Sure.
Okay.
At some point.
Had
There's
another-
an hour.
Yeah, we can do that, and I can give people copies of these documents too, so that you can look at,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
have nothing in, the town center and library committee information that's been given to me has anything about the library. Yet Josh tells me, the paper found rock, and I said, there's grants is, okay, there's obviously some continuity and some momentum
Mhm.
somewhere, well, on someone's part, so.
And we're working on grant funding for some of our projects, but we're not optimistic we're going to get it for various reasons, so. Yeah.
The other thing is I do want to ask that.
Taking notes for myself in the communal.
I do want to
Yeah,
ask,
that's right.
It's okay. You can go ahead.
I do want to ask everybody that we are talking about things in our meetings that we do it here, not in the media. There's been a lot of chitter chat outside these walls about various things that the town is doing. It makes it really difficult for us to stay focused, at least for me to stay focused, so I'm asking everybody to do
I
that.
need that, I don't understand what you're
I
asking.
don't want to be reading Front Porch Forum about what we're doing here. I don't want to be reading some other media about what we're doing here. After the fact is fine. While we're doing it, no.
Okay, happy, we're talking town center committee. This is
Mhm.
public information, it's
Right.
open public meeting. You're saying
Exactly.
before the meeting, you don't want comments, you want.
I don't want opinions put out there from this committee. If people out in the town want to do that, that's their privilege, but I don't want this committee to engage in that kind of work. I'd like to keep it here, to discuss it here, keep it in the context of what we're doing, and that's all.
I hope everyone express opinions in the meeting too. I'm not gonna worry if I offend anyone. I hope
Yeah,
no
right.
one else does either. so.
But I
Yeah.
agree that we may not, shouldn't be, giving our personal opinions
Mhm.
on Front Porch Forum or anywhere else. I understand that. But we have talked about being open about what we are doing
Correct.
here.
Yeah,
That's what
And I think, I think even,
An opinion in
Someone out there is
front.
listening to this.
well, yes, but not everyone does. Very few people do. And I think something like
What do you mean?
Front
There's
Porch
5
Forum would be a medium where when we make a decision and we're gonna be doing something
After the
to,
fact.
after the fact, and to
We're
start off
We're even
with,
explaining, I
I
think,
don't for this, I don't foresee,
Yeah,
if
okay.
it's
I
directed
think
at me,
I'm just letting you know, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah,
I'll post whenever I want,
A
whenever
lot
I
of us have posted.
Actually posting your meeting.
A lot of us have posted on Front Porch Forum before, after, and, you know.
And we'll
Yeah.
continue to do so.
And that's fine, but I would rather not try to,
You know,
no one.
the biggest thing is-
Debate
Yeah.
agenda items.
Just in that place.
And if
If
we
we're
can all,
trying to come to decisions, I would like it to be done here,
Right.
and then whatever,
right,
you know.
I will say, if you can really fire a front porch forum, maybe someone will show up.
yeah, yeah, I know.
They didn't do a
Anyway,
really good
so-
job in their audience anyway. They-
Okay.
they're doing a
You know,
good job.
An example, we did talk early on, I think before Kara was here,
Mhm.
about some of the stuff that was going on Front Porch Forum, that we should tear the building down and build one up on the mountain, there's whatever view. And we made a decision at that point on what we were going to focus on, the renovations right now. I think it would be valuable to put that out, that this is why we decided to do that, that I think that this is a valuable thing. If we renovate the building, it's also a valuable thing. If we decide to do something else, then we have something to compare it with, other than the vote to get, the $10 million version of
To
it.
put what, I'm confused with what we want to put out.
I'd like to put something out saying that
On what, Front Porch?
well,
Please,
that
not
we're
yet,
open,
not yet.
we're open
If
to
we
where
start,
it would be.
if we start raising a bunch of questions before we're ready to answer them, we haven't done ourselves a good service.
Right.
Thank you. I
But
agree.
if we've made a
I
decision
just
that,
want us to be the source of the information, because it's a lot easier to.
Let us find out some of our basic questions first, so we have answers to
Right,
those questions.
but I think we have answered the question of, that we are going to go down the path of looking at this building to see how we can reduce the cost.
Yes, yes.
And
Actually,
there may be other versions of that will come up.
Yeah.
And if they are, we need to know, we need to go through that exercise so that we have a lower cost option to compare with it.
Yeah.
As well as and I don't think it's, with the idea of being open to the public, I kind of think one of the things that the old committee did wrong, they did an awful lot to get public input.
Yeah.
But did anybody know what was coming before they put out the final version? And then they went out and tried to sell it, but they didn't get any public input
Well, they
back
did.
on what the decisions they were making as they're going along. And
They
I think
did.
it'd be valuable to keep putting some of that out as we go along and say, this is what we've decided. Let all the hate mail come in.
I beg to differ with you. They did get comments. They ignored those comments and they went with what their vision was. They stood behind their vision. So all the power to them for standing behind,
Yeah.
I don't mean to point at you, but yeah, no worries. They stood behind their decision and they didn't back down from it. When those of us who went to the public
Okay.
hearings before the massive release
Yeah.
and the promoting of their wishes, and they didn't listen. We were concerned then, they didn't listen. I am not 100% sure if, until I see a budget, until I see the safety issues, whether I support 100% us keeping this building or not doing a new building.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you that, because if we can have the building right next door that is on our grand list for $2 million, we can't spend 5 on this building. It's not the best interest of the town for us to house some of the things that we're housing in this building. The numbers are gonna speak to me. The plan is, this building might be, there's been suggestions that this building be turned into senior housing, that they could have massive amounts of senior housing in this building. That might be best for our community. I cannot make any decisions, so that's why I don't wanna have anybody post on Front Porch Forum what we're really looking to do
Mhm.
until we know what our path is.
Thank you.
I don't.
I do think it's valuable that once we review everything and we'll have to come up with a direction. And when we decide, when we narrow that down.
Yeah.
Update.
Yeah.
And then when we start working on the next thing we have to narrow down, we
Yes.
update as we
Yeah,
narrow
yeah.
down. I think that is right.
Even when we
We
get
can do
to-
ourselves, I'm sorry,
Yes, no, yeah.
we can do ourselves a big favor by getting that ball of yarn all settled in the beginning, and then we just go.
Well-
Instead of doing it every.
Mine is
4 meetings.
release some of the answers once we get them.
Yeah.
The
But not
top
be-
10,
but not
the top
before.
10 safety
Yeah.
issues we
Yeah.
found in this building by OSHA standards are this. Put that out in Front Porch Forum. Tell them that's what we're dealing with right now.
Perfect.
This is how much
Do,
money we have in our coffers to spend right now to fix those top 10 issues.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that go a long way with them, the public saying, wow, they're aware of these basic needs that we have to take care of?
I'm afraid of wearing people out, Garrett, really, it's gonna be, I don't even know how long this will take, but let's say it's a year. While we, kind of go like this, we've got documents that aren't really accessible to the public, they're accessible, but.
You could do
they're
a
not gonna-
quarterly update, or
Let me finish. I don't really want people to see us change our direction a number of times, although we might need to. And think that we are doing the same zigzagging.
understandable.
We don't know where we're gonna end up or would be there already. So,
Well, can I give you an example?
Sure.
Say top 10 safety issues, we have budgeted money, we all decided as a committee, we want the select board to fix the number one thing, and this is how much it's gonna cost. Why wouldn't you wanna let the taxpayer know
Mhm.
that the committee worked hard, developed this list?
well, sure.
Here's the top, and we're gonna start checking some things off the list to show we've accomplished something. Kudos to the select board, kudos to the committee, and yay for the community. That's my only part about updates.
That's good PR, and I think. you're
Not
right.
wishy-washy, we don't know what
Yeah,
we're doing.
not stream of conscience,
Right.
but,
Right, we
So that's my
have to
point.
find out.
Material
We have to
updates.
know what we're doing.
Thank you, material updates.
Okay,
But you were on A still, about
yeah,
appointment of positions and if you still wanted to do that for
I
everybody.
do, but I want your opinions on it, because this is a democracy.
I think that my off the cuff, feeling is
None of us
that,
knows much about some of those things.
yeah, well, I think that how you've outlined it, I think would be very valuable if we settle on that we're gonna renovate this building and there are things that are important to do. I think that, as Kara pointed out,
I think it's premature.
I think it's a little bit premature. I think we need to review this stuff.
Okay,
And if we all get to that point where as a committee, we kind of come together and decide to go that direction, then I think that is an extremely valuable.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
None of us are gonna be.
that's fair, then we're
So-
still in the organizational stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all
We're all
learning.
horses.
Yeah.
We're catching it.
Yeah, and I think that brings in that Mike had some things that he wanted to
Yeah.
bring in too, so I think that this is
Yeah.
a great idea, it's just premature for me.
But I actually think that's an important, I think that's gonna be a milestone for our committee, not one that we would communicate publicly because no one will care. But if we get to the point where we have a goal of what we want to do and we need to assign people to become experts in all these individual things so we can compile a plan, I think that'll be that's a
Yeah.
fundamental change from where we're at now. So I think that's a goal.
Yeah.
It's a goal to work toward.
We have to go from the general to the specific, but we don't have to jump into it. I mean, yeah, we can do it.
I think like you said, Kara had said, all the documents and stuff, I think we all really. Myself, I'm kind of projecting a little bit here, but need to spend a good few days and just.
For example, here is,
Sorry.
I think this is-
That's all right.
I think this is, one, I have to look at, this is one of the scope of work documents that was produced. It's one of, I think there's, 15 documents or so. I've got it in the computer. Is that,
Not digitally shared, but,
oh, you have it. Oh, okay. Here, did you see it? You have copies? This one, okay.
sorry,
I didn't bring copies for everybody, just being one.
Is that the same thing?
I think agenda item, I think we keep it on the table.
Yeah,
As a
okay.
goal to get to, if needed,
Mhm.
but a little premature.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really
Yeah.
good.
Okay, so essentially.
I
Mike, what did
think,
you
I
want to
think if
say?
we go
Yeah, sorry.
through that too, we're gonna find that some categories
Mhm.
are, I mean, you suggested some categories, and I think at this point, we don't know how much each one of them
That's
is
true.
really gonna be. Some of them
All
may
the-
be
all the big
overwhelmingly
categories
large
will
thing
pop
to
out,
do.
yeah.
Other ones like the high back, they propose one, what's it do, is there much more to do there? Where,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do to the electrical system, maybe?
It might be,
something-
it might be expensive, but not,
Yeah,
it
right.
might not be hard to figure out.
Right,
Just,
right.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I agree.
and at
That's a
some
good
point,
point.
I think, well, let's see if we all agree, but we're going to need to bring in an expert on systems, architecture, whatever, at some point
Mhm.
to take us to the next step, because we can only go so far.
Mhm.
Well, I think that, I agree, and I think that falls in the same category as what I just said about A, is that if we decide in the direction of this building moving forward,
Mhm.
firmly 100%,
Mhm.
then certainly.
Let's talk about that then, because that is really one of the first questions. If we're not renovating this building, and then we don't need to worry about it. From what I've been told, there is not really space on the site to put another building. And.
Not
uh,
without knocking down something that already exists
Right.
because of zoning regulations.
Right here, because we are, I don't
I think
know
there's
if we
space.
actually comply with the setbacks on this site.
I think
But
there's space.
we do have setback, limits on this site that preclude putting another building even near the signs anywhere on the site, in the parking lot or next door or between the library, anything, even crazy things can't be done because we can't comply with our own laws and shit.
I think we could,
So,
I don't think.
yeah, we could technically rebuild this building, right? We could tear it down and rebuild the same footprint. That's kind
I
of,
wouldn't even propose that. I think there's space on this site for us to do something else, but I don't want to propose or look at doing anything else. If we can do it, if we can fix this building.
Hmm.
So I don't want to think about something else until I see my safety list, my money, how much can we get done for what we're trying to get done without all the bells and whistles? And can we fix this building and save this building for ourselves? That's my primary goal to begin with. And if we can do that, then I'm all for it. But if we're gonna do that at a tune of $9 million, I'm not for it.
mm,
And so that's where I'm at, Lisa.
that is our mission.
That's what so I agree with that, but I
If
cannot
something-
support the project until I know the detail. Until I know the facts, not even the detail. I don't need to get into the HVAC
Right.
system and the electric. I need to know the
We have,
basics.
we have a real good set of estimates, one scope of work essentially, we have a good set of estimates for redoing HV, electrical,
Yeah.
drainage windows, whatever, you name it. We've got those prices, so they're not gonna be a whole lot different if we do it a slightly different way, I think.
Yeah,
Now,
and I don't know if we need it all.
to the price,
Yeah.
I
but-
think there might be on some things, but.
I personally don't.
I
think
don't want to talk about that's,
I
we don't get there now.
personally think we need to
But,
tear out all the walls.
But I
so,
I want
getting this.
I want to go back to what I said before, though. I think whether we build a new building, fix this one, we need to decide what we want in this building. We need to decide whether we're gonna keep the police department in here, whether we're gonna keep all our tenants in here, we're gonna, those kind of things. You know, Garrett wants to build another building that's smaller, you know,
No, I
it's
don't-
not gonna have, well, I'm
No,
just,
it's a good idea.
you know,
A lot of places
can we
it
do
works.
it? I mean, I think we need to decide, you know, we can make this building cheaper if we don't keep radiate art space. So we're trying to find a place for that.
We
you know,
can't, we
we-
can't
I-
plan to house we cannot
Well,
plan to house
that's-
non-town businesses to begin with. We
That-
have to focus on the town
that-
staff and the town businesses.
Here, I can tell you-
That's your opinion.
I can, let me tell you
Safety,
a
safety,
political fact. Political fact is radiate is necessary for this community.
Yeah.
The
And
community,
They weren't.
that's a discussion.
the senior center is necessary for this community.
Didn't say
Yeah.
it was.
Whether we want it or not,
Right.
we have to have it.
So,
There's a couple of OCC, our community, there's necessary for this community. That has been decreed essentially by the community. So
I'm not promising anybody anything until I know the basic answers to the questions. And we're gonna have 2 meetings now
Mhm.
without having those basic answers. So I'm saying I'm not committing to new building, old building, housing everybody. I need to see the facts. I'll make my decisions
So
based on
I'm-
facts,
I'm
not
sorry,
on
but-
sentiment, on facts.
So. It seems like everything we talked about so far boils down to the fact that we need to post the files publicly and then every single
Okay.
person needs to read every fucking file.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I keep saying that we need to review, we need to review. Because if we're
Right.
gonna come back, and
Yeah.
not this is anything new, but if we're gonna come back next meeting, if they're posted publicly in a day or two,
mhm,
and we come back next meeting and say we don't know,
mhm.
then it's on us to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no longer, and
Yeah.
that's not,
Right,
yeah.
but the plan designs of somebody's dream who has put
Yeah.
in the granite countertops, okay, you get my point?
Yeah.
Means we have to make sure, are the granite countertops a necessity or a,
So I think we need to review
Absolutely.
everything.
Well, that's not the
A
question that
plus.
was raised a minute ago. The tenants in this
I
building
can't determine that
are
first.
going to need to be,
That,
accommodated.
right, and
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that, but
Well,
I think we need to say that, you know, you have,
The
but
select board has decided that.
Okay,
and
that's-
the town manager has
that's,
decided that.
that's,
The community has told both of those.
Yes.
Our town manager and select board, that you will have a senior center, you will have a radiator art space, you will have OCCC.
Historical Society, Mount
Yes,
Mansfield
Historical
Community
Society, yeah.
Television.
I'm not saying they're all going away.
Yeah,
but
right.
The size of their
Right,
space
now,
and their
how we
dreams
how
might
we-
not come true.
How we provide for them, what we do for them,
Right.
that's.
That's
something to
up
be
there,
decided.
but-
And where, and
right,
building,
exactly.
if you have a lean-to outside.
But, right,
Um,
but, you know, if we're going to accommodate everything that's in the
Right.
building now, then
Open up your
we're
rent.
probably gonna need a building similar in size to this.
that's exactly, pretty quickly, it leads us to those kinds of.
And that's what I, you know,
Yeah.
the thing, we could build a smaller building somewhere if we aren't gonna keep everything that we
Quite
have.
frankly, if we had leftover space in a renovation here, we could find a tenant that pays. real quick. So we don't have to
Well,
worry about
So we
having.
could keep that in mind. So that's not
Well,
what
yeah,
we,
not that we.
that's a number thing, isn't it?
Not that we create it for rental,
Okay.
but if we.
Yeah.
No, but it-
Well,
If you want to keep
it's-
some,
It's, I mean, they're not, they're easy to take out, and move now, so.
I'm not sure we could. I mean, this new building up here has a downstairs with signs in front of it trying to rent their space,
Mhm.
you know? you know?
that's.
It's the town.
Yeah, I could very well be, but,
We have, there's one landlord here.
yeah, right.
But yeah, the various, users of this building are and the police department.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
no, I,
we're going a long ways towards having our
Yeah.
own.
I do have a
police
question regarding one of our tenants.
department.
When the contract was renegotiated with the post office, there was contingencies upon that contract that the town was going to do a certain number of things to fulfill that. I need to know what those were and if they were fulfilled already. Or if we have an obligation to the post office to do some things that we as a committee are not aware of.
Good question.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing we need to do is make sure our biggest, highest paying tenant is the happiest.
Yes.
And that we can, our goal is not to relocate them during this time period. Because if we relocate the post office, I will put money on the table, they might not come back,
Exactly, we don't want to tempt them.
yeah,
okay?
Right.
So
Oh,
that's
exactly.
one
They
question
pay
I need
$100,000
answers
a year,
to.
so it's-
For the next meeting, we should be able to have those answers, and it should be a question to Josh. And we should be able to send that list to us, so that we do not have to wait till the next meeting to go over that list. It's again, homework stuff that we can work on.
Trying to- Somebody else want to be secretary, or do you still want to do it? I would like to not have to do the minutes from the transcripts. And that I will after some of that,
I talked to Matt about that too, because he does minutes all the time at work. He just uses AI program that you want, if you
That's
give it the
what
video. and it
Duncan was
spits
just
out-
saying.
Yeah,
Duncan,
it spits
sorry,
out-
you weren't here.
it spits out the minutes. He showed me, he's like, yeah, here's a work, what's it?
Duncan runs it through and it
Yeah,
takes,
the team,
15
yeah,
teams
it
meeting,
takes, yeah, converts
recording,
the
he
audio
sends it in like
into text.
30 seconds later, it spits out minutes.
But I don't think they're organized, you know, I mean, it's pretty much.
Not pretty organized.
Huh?
And we're organizing anything I'm gonna write up,
yeah.
just a low standard.
Yeah. Duncan was talking about that earlier and he didn't seem to think it was organized. He said
Oh,
you
really?
kind of have
yeah,
to,
so Matt's might be, because it's
Yeah.
a different AI.
Yeah, maybe, I think his is paid.
Yeah.
maybe it's got to run through another filter
I'll
before.
ask- I'll ask him. Maybe you can,
Yeah.
maybe it's something you can like run.
Well,
through.
he's gonna wind up sending me the text file from this conversation we're having here, and I know, I mean, we've all heard it, we know it's gonna be
Yeah.
kind of all, we have some comments,
So I think there
we
was-
have direction, but there's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
to pare down, so it's work. I'll do it one more time, but I'm just
I'm
not very good at it.
I'm just terrible at taking notes tonight.
I think the other thing, just to clarify, if we're doing minutes, we're doing actual minutes, we're not doing transcripts.
Yeah.
Transcripts,
Correct.
Well, that's all we get out of
And-
the
it.
minutes are very different. The only thing they need to be verbatim
Right.
are motions.
Correct,
Yeah.
and Duncan was very, very clear with that. Less is more,
Mhm.
basic information,
Sure.
definitely driven by motions. So far, we've made no decisions that were driven by motions
There's nothing
tonight.
that's like has to be verbatim written in minutes. or-
Correct. At this point in time, there's
Say the
nothing.
fire department,
The committee discussed, various starting points for the project.
Yeah.
The organizational structure.
If people really wanna know, they should go to the video, because that's the verbatim.
exactly.
And that's a good thing to have.
And that's a good backup that we have now that we didn't used to have, is that, well, the minutes don't have to be detailed because you can watch us.
Mhm. It's embarrassing for me to go through now what I've got.
I was gonna
At any point.
I was grabbed this, but I was gonna make an asterisk next to all the things that I think
Are
are,
premature.
that are,
Wait.
yeah, that are contingent upon us,
That's the kind of.
that are contingent upon us
That'd be
all
great.
reviewing.
That's
So I think
what
that's our,
We were
Okay.
thinking the same thing,
our
Adam.
big action item is gonna be every single person reviewing this and coming up with questions,
All right, so
suggestions, anything, just info.
where would we like these documents? We've got, let me get my computer. I've got them here. I can show you what.
Well, just like
what
the,
this is.
like the select board has pre-meeting items that they post up there. Or in your maps and stuff, you can see the D firms. I think on our landing page down below, just like the town clerks on hers at the bottom, you can see your annual town reports. Just like the annual town reports at the bottom of our page
Or something.
should be the documents from, and you can break them up if there's subcategories within that, that would be helpful to us. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Budget, plans,
Well, yeah, I'll ask, because I have never posted stuff like that on our. site,
Duncan's
so-
the expert.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are gonna.
No, Duncan's the
Yeah, I
expert.
know I'm not.
Josh is willing to.
Well,
have
and-
those posted. I don't see why we wouldn't. And by the way, they're all paid for. We have fully paid DRD. So, that question came up last time too. Are they,
Do we own them?
and we don't want to pay them to do work again, I
Yeah.
understand. But they have been fully paid. Josh says if we want like a debrief from them, which I think we might want, maybe after we get into this a little bit. If you don't, okay.
No, I want to
The
read.
documents hopefully speak for themselves, but that would be possible probably best, I mean, yeah, or cost,
How big a package is this?
I'm sure.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine.
Is it something we can read in 2 weeks?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to know how many bolts and, you know,
Right,
that's what they're gonna
right.
use.
Here's the-
Oh, okay.
Come back with a takeoff.
Each one of these is a hero sandwich, I mean.
Yeah, yeah, right.
There's three different.
Can you just read what the
Yeah.
titles of the pages are?
Yeah.
They're just PDFs. There's like a dozen PDFs.
There's 10.
Okay, 10
Okay,
PDFs.
first one, O2, RITC plan options, and this is April 13th, 2023. The second one is project budget, option comparisons, and actually there's more to the title, but it.
That's okay. No, that's good.
Let me just expand it into the full. Let's show the full title. Option comparisons, yeah, September 20th, 2023. RITC, which I think is their name for the town center, I'm not sure what the RI stands for. Feasibility scope, outline, specifications, and estimate, three dots, estimates. Next one, fourth one, RITC project budget, version 5. There were 5 versions of the budget, and honestly, I looked back at a couple before. Version 4 and version 5 are a lot different. They were added downwards because I think people could see it was too much money. It's too much money. It kept going down. Now, it's a little harder to find out what was taken out, and they can look at the previous one and look to see if it's not there in that one. and then-
Well, they took out the, last time around, they took out the solar panels, because
Yes.
they were gonna try to, Jeff was gonna try to use ARPA money for that.
Right, and that was also part of the roof issue. It's not snow load, it's solar panel weight.
Right,
And
it
that's
wasn't,
all-
snow. Yeah,
Right.
right, but it came out on Front Porch Forum,
You know,
instead of
maybe
snow
both of
load.
those kind of go away. Somewhere 5 years down the road or whatever, maybe when something.
It doesn't need a-
bankrupt, they can get some free panels, I don't know. You heard about some, their parent companies, filed for bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Number is, budget version 5, project budget worksheet version 4 with BE option. I'm not sure what BE option is, but that's in here. SD program layouts, SD program of space needs, and the SD is, I don't know what SD stands for exactly, but it's essentially the room sizes, it's the floor
Mhm.
plan layouts that we've seen. I can show you these right
No,
now.
keep going, no, keep going, we're good. I'm already getting ahead of me.
SD program.
Wait till you
here's a
see
good-
them.
Yeah, yeah.
SD program, we're gonna be out of time. SD program of space needs. Now, that sounds like a needy one right there. I'm sure they've got identified whose space and how much.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
We ask people to dream. I get this.
Okay.
Yeah.
September 29, 2022, department notes. This sounds like a document that was put together by the staff saying what we needed. I haven't looked at it yet, but we can't.
Okay. Okay.
Next, RITC's feasibility scoping drawings, August 23rd, 2023. Feasibility. scoping drawings.
That was, I think, having to do,
Yeah,
don't quote me on this, but I
Okay.
think that was like having to do with the zoning and planning, like what can you put on this parcel.
Okay, because I
I
know that was done somewhere and I haven't come across it yet. I have not had time to go through these yet. Next one, or the last one is floodplain review. 2022, September 29th. A little bit earlier than it should have been last, so it's, didn't have the last one. So those, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those are 10 documents. That's the bulk of, that's all of what Josh gave me. As far as I can see, that's the pack.
Perfect.
So, yeah, so we
Okay.
have, what has been done, we have it here. Now, what we do in the future,
So you're gonna reach out on the list, you're gonna reach out to Duncan to get those PDFs uploaded to the internet, so we can
Yes.
download them, view them
Yes.
on our own. Or
I
we can
have
just
them on
go
my
view them.
computer, Josh gave them to me, so, and I have some of them on this.
So yeah,
Last guy here, if somebody has a computer here and wants some of them, we're gonna bring here, actually, I can download them all right now.
That's okay.
Wants them, but,
That's okay.
get these on the website.
No,
And yeah, and
that's-
you're right,
it's
that's
that
public,
transparency
public
thing.
money was spent
Yeah.
for, the and so the public deserves,
Yep.
has paid for it.
Let's put that out there.
Can you let us know when they're up there so we
Sure.
don't have
yeah,
to keep
sure.
going back looking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Lisa, on your other, you've got that to do with Duncan, but the list of the post office lists the contingencies on their last contract. Or even seeing in their contract if there's anything that we have to be aware of. Is that something you want to at least reach out to Josh on for us on that?
sure, okay.
There were some changes in the layout down there that were part of the last proposal. I don't know if that's something I
Right.
think it is something they asked for, but I'm not sure.
So-
I know it's off
Are we-
topic, but when we walked through the building, Matt and I did, and we talked to them about it. They actually seem very happy with the space compared to what I would have, how I would feel if I was working there.
Yeah.
So that's completely,
Yeah.
that's not quantitative info, that's not a survey. But they aren't like, yeah, this place is a nightmare, we wanna get out of here. And I don't know, that doesn't
Yeah.
indicate, that's no indication of how the actual postal service feels. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And we-
that's a broader question.
We are taking a little of their space to put the high back, put the
Yeah,
mechanical.
they have a ton of space. They have those 4 bathrooms that are huge and they were like, this is great. We have huge bathroom. We can, when they come in from doing stuff in the snow, we can hang our stuff up. It's great. I just imagined they were gonna like complain about like all the tiles that were messed up. They were like, no, this is awesome. Really? Cool. This is a pleasant
They probably
surprise.
feel like-
Everyone on this side of the building was like, when are you gonna fix this and this? And I was like, I don't know, man. I have to go back to work after.
That's
this.
an idea.
Yeah.
Because we had homework assignments from last time that we haven't got to or gone over yet.
Mhm.
I think it would be okay, and if everybody's okay with this, if I keep the list of to-dos and email it out to everybody, like the assignment, so everybody remembers what your assignment is, that you can, and when you get your assignment information, you're allowed to just pass it to everybody in one email
Mhm.
and not talk about it, because that's open public law, we can't talk about it, but we
Yeah.
can still provide it.
If you're willing to
And then we have time to
That'd be
review
helpful.
it
Because,
before the
yeah,
next
Okay.
meeting.
we,
That would be extremely helpful.
we're capable
Yeah, thank
people,
you.
there's 5 of us, 6 of us, that can go in parallel, or we can all go in single file.
Okay.
And that's not near as fast. So-
If you're good with me doing that, I'll do that with
Yeah.
the to-do list,
Mhm.
emailed out to everybody with everybody's assignments. And I'll even go back to last time's, and if you guys don't mind, I can look at that right now, just so that Lisa's aware of what we had for, homework assignments from last time, if that's cool.
Yeah,
Sure.
Because last time we had, there's it on schools, let me get down to our homework assignments, it's a different thing.
Mm,
Cause
you already took minutes.
Mike was gonna get us our stuff that we needed. Lisa was gonna check with Josh on the files and the access, which she got, so we get to check off that. We were gonna table the request for Black River, which I believe has been done, correct?
Can I stop you right there? I just want to
Sure.
bring up the speed. I told the select board, I said, look, I wanted that, no, I don't know, this, you and I had this conversation, but I wanted an authorization from the select board for that spending so that we had it, not to spend and not to even spend it, but just had it as a promise to point to. And a couple of people said, well, why? All right, fine.
So we don't have it.
No.
We do not.
Good.
no.
I don't
Select board
No,
took no action
it was
on that.
tabled,
They
Thank
didn't
you.
ask- Well, it wasn't tabled, but it was came up in no action.
And I think we didn't formally say, no, we're not approving this, but we said, we will.
No.
We'll hold on it, we'll wait for a formal
Yeah, I kind of
request.
wanted to test test the will of the board, because if they don't want to even pursue this, well. let's-
Well, they don't have a
find out.
choice, because they're community and they know that.
I mean, I do-
Yeah,
Something that we
exactly.
don't
I think my gut
If
feeling,
this staff,
I don't
you're
have any
committed to
hesitation.
chaos this town at the end. I no road department.
I don't have any hesitation that that amount of money would get approved if we come and we say.
I don't
we
think
do
so
that.
either, but I just didn't want
But we don't wanna, it's,
money on our
Yeah, it's,
list that we've already started to spend something we don't know what direction we're going. So thank you, that's on the list. Matt was gonna come up with some, I'm gonna check some metrics on the cost per square foot and stuff like that. I'll leave that on the list to do, right?
yeah, I don't know, I texted him that.
Okay, that's cool.
I had the energy grant.
Yeah, I had you for grants, but I haven't got to that page yet.
Municipal
one down
page
there. Doing the rubber suits or the straight jackets. Everything is.
Adam, you got the fire marshal inspection stuff too.
Yeah, that's,
And we had Adam with, he wants to reduce cost, trim the fat, identify opportunities, but he's going after grant funding for the municipal, but you're gonna wait on the FEMA.
so I got an update on the energy grant, we don't technically qualify, they're having a hard time getting rid of the money. We need to do an audit, all this stuff, so we would have to kind of do an audit of, existing systems.
I
Yeah, so for energy, no, I just did my.
Energy audit.
No, I didn't hear that.
Energy.
Workers' comp audit. No, we would need to do an energy audit and then, and we would also need to kind of do not an audit, but a review of, the endpoint of the building, I guess. Does that make sense? An audit, but we kind of review the different discrepancies between where we're at and where we look to be and how the grant could help us accomplish that in compliance with stuff.
But we technically don't qualify, is what you're saying?
That was the thing, because of,
I don't think.
it was because of the, it's basically meant to get towns that don't have the money to do it.
Correct.
Richmond, as we've talked about, Richmond, fortunately, we have tons of money.
Change your name.
So, yeah, so the other thing is the guy had said that he had briefly talked to Jeff about it before Jeff was traveling. And so I'm gonna, now that Jeff is back, I'm.
He is.
and then-
Is that the Vita grant? This
I
one,
think that,
the commercial energy loan program?
yeah, yes, but there's a grant
Economic,
program I know,
okay.
municipal energy bond
Okay.
or bond grant program or something. It's
Hmm.
similar and linked, but not the same as my understanding.
Okay,
So I'm gonna loop all of that in and,
Are you gonna talk with Jeff?
yeah, I'm gonna,
Okay,
exactly.
exactly. Reappointed as our energy.
and I
Yeah.
feel like we have had an energy,
Yeah.
at least part of an energy
You had
audit
to have.
recently,
Yeah.
Sure
so
we have.
that probably exists in
Yeah,
some state,
exactly.
yeah.
I'm sure we have an audit, and I think part of the unknown is where we wanna be,
Mhm.
but I think that. You know, obviously, we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the building, but get the sense it's more like the outside skin of the building.
Mhm.
What we do on the inside is not gonna be a big driving force, so a lot of this can be, we can come up with a plan for this energy. We come up with a plan, we can see if we qualify, if we can, whatever, and then what we do on the inside. Broadly shouldn't matter a ton, as long as we don't decide to like do cold storage, and put it in the kitchen or something ridiculous. All the uses that we have proposed from everything from keep it how it
There's
is
no process.
to what was proposed last on, everything in between should realistically shouldn't change things.
Exactly.
The need for
The
that.
building volume is about the same.
So I think that we can pursue this.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're gonna decide if we're gonna stick in this building in this envelope,
Mhm.
but I think once we do that, there's a lot, we can pursue this in parallel to a lot of other questions because it might be independent of the interior layout, occupancies, et cetera.
But first thing you're gonna do is find out when the last dated audit, energy audit
Yeah,
was.
yeah, and
And if it was
I'm
2022, 2023,
part of this stuff, hoping
2020,
this goes back to our point that we need to review the documents,
yeah,
but
but it may not be in there.
I'm gonna loop Jeff in because I know specifically on energy stuff.
It's nothing, nothing that Jeff had talked about before referred to and pointed to an energy audit anywhere.
I don't think, I mean, I think he talked about the energy committee having done that, but it wasn't part of that
Okay.
design
I'm
project.
gonna loop Jeff in and see where we're at, and then
Yep.
he'll also know
You know-
specifically who to talk to more within the
Can
state.
you expand on that word, Jeff, just a little bit? He might be very helpful. I don't want him to steer what we're doing because, but
You know, we won't.
he's been there and he knows.
He's gonna be a
He knows
huge
what I'm
resource.
like.
Yeah.
We would be doing a disservice to ourselves and the community to not at least use him as a resource to come up to speed.
I think he can,
Yeah.
honestly, he really,
But I also didn't want to bug him. He did say, feel free to call him.
yeah.
And he was,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not gonna call him.
If
Like, if anyone calls me on a vacation, I get so annoyed. I don't want
When I did the
Yeah,
tour of the building here before the vote and so forth,
so I'm gonna,
I had, one of the questions I asked Jeff was, if we change the how much we're gonna save if we do that? And he changed the windows, for instance, and he says, well, we don't know, but we got an energy audit coming up. So it sounded like there was something in the plans to
Really,
do that.
have a.
So-
He couldn't give me any
add
numbers,
that
that's
to my
what we
homework.
might say.
So the follow-up from last time is continue that conversation with Jeff and find the energy audit.
I got it.
Yeah. I gotta believe there's some data somewhere that's been used for judgment, but
We can
it's just a guess.
add to your homework to just send that over for minutes too, so I don't have to do it. I'm gonna keep trying. One of these times we're gonna accidentally commit, Kara. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you
Well,
get that.
I'm gonna start you like triple negatives and reverse psychology.
I'll just read the list of things to do, because I
I
like to
like
check
that.
things off.
That's even
okay?
more important than the.
Accomplish things.
Okay.
I really want us to put on I want, if it's okay with everybody else, I'd like to have Amy be able to distribute the information that she has for us on the library updates.
Yep.
Yep.
And any other piece of information, even if it's about this building that you think we should have.
Okay.
We can open our mind up to not the 10
Yep.
PDFs, but you, and you
And I
as a resource
think
for us.
yeah, I can do that because I think I have all the raw data from the surveys of the community that we took. I have a
Oh,
whole
wow.
folder of stuff that I can share with you guys, so.
I'd ask you to hold off on that
Okay.
first. I don't want to hear what everybody else is, well, what everybody else wanted in the dream. I want to know
Mhm.
what you've got planned right now that that the library
Oh,
has
that's- Yeah,
in the work,
Mhm.
meaning they're physically doing it now in
yep.
this current FY 24 year.
Yep.
What you got planned for FY 25 and what you have planned for FY 26 to make sure what you have planned matches the financial information that I've been given.
Yep.
Because my homework was to get some financial information, and I've got that.
Thank you.
But it seems like I don't know where we're at with our meeting and stuff like that. But I can either go over the information I've found and I've gotten, or you can wait till next meeting. So this sounds like it's more organizational meeting tonight to get us getting the details before we delve
Yeah,
into.
And you would probably wanna look at the budgets that are available,
This all came from Connie.
oh.
I
okay.
went to the source,
Oh, good, nice.
but the only problem, but the only problem with any of the numbers that we're getting right now is your fiscal year end is June 30th. So
Mhm.
July 1 is the start of your new fiscal year. I don't think she gets her numbers ready for the auditors until September, but I'm gonna ask for a rough draft number because you should be banking what you should have an idea what
Yeah.
the bank account.
and for some of those projects that Connie has us down for, the trust, we've decided like, we don't actually necessarily need a new boiler. We have to do some investigating on
There you
if the
go.
boiler is fine and we're not going to use that
Perfect.
money in 2025, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, so those
And
conversations
the
are underway.
detail of these two funds combining was not given to me by Connie, so I don't know how recently that was.
Very recently, like within the last couple months, we got the
Okay,
word
this
that
was within the last couple of
Okay.
weeks, so that information wasn't
Okay.
relayed to me.
I will tell Rebecca that needs to get clarified then, so.
Okay, because that is a question of why, if it's a town center fund, you have a town center fund, reserve fund, and you have a library reserve fund,
Mhm.
why are we taking library reserves out of the town center reserve? Why are there two separate
Yeah.
funds?
That's.
So that was.
You want me to dig into
question.
that or?
No,
I can do that.
Yeah,
She can
okay.
do that.
Hey,
Okay,
if that's on Amy's list of things to do, is email the committee, the library.
Mhm.
Info and any details on the combining of the funds.
So I got a bunch of the, where are we at now? Are we on D right now? Reviewing Black River's
Well,
stuff, is that kind of the same?
Mike, I want to make sure, Mike, the packet, the information that you've prepared, do you feel most comfortable presenting it? Or would it be able to email to us so we can?
I think it
read
would be,
through
I intended to email her to get it to people.
Yeah.
And it's just my kind of random thoughts of everything I think I know about the program, the whole project, or what I might have heard somewhere, just ideas of where we might
Put it
start
together.
looking.
Yeah,
Any
can you
of-
send
are-
that? That sounds.
are Any of it, I gotta ask this one question. Is any of it your opinion or it's just information that you have collected?
Some of it is my opinion.
So scrub it of your opinion
Uh,
so that you can distribute it to us. If it has your opinion in it, you can't
okay,
send it to us. That's the open public meeting thing.
okay.
We can post it for next meeting and then talk about it too.
Correct.
And once
If that's okay,
and
'cause
once
I
it's
really-
posted
Yeah,
for
no,
next
no, I
meeting, then we can all
I
look
don't
at
wanna
it.
get you in trouble.
Understand, right, no, that's true, but it was just, I just had a whole lot of thoughts in my head. And
Yeah,
it helped me to focus, to write them all
I
down.
appreciate that.
And
Yeah.
some of it was based on the questions that I had asked before. Some of it is things that I felt that we should be doing before we dove into the details, which
Mhm.
we've talked about it a little bit here as far as, public, information kind of things, and coming up with a list of what we're trying to put into this building.
Mhm.
What are our priorities? And I made a list of what I thought might be a starting point to figure that out, but it's certainly open to adding, subtracting, and moving the
And I
pieces
think
around.
that's okay. That's not opinion. That's not,
But
that's just the organizational.
There were
Yeah.
things that I put in there with my opinions, like, we don't need to put glass in the windows downstairs again, but I could change that to ask if we do need to, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, change that to questions and that's.
Yeah.
I can assure you though, that the town wants the tenants that are here to remain here.
Yes.
Oh, another one
And-
about is the TV people,
She, Amy.
And
And in my list, I think that was the third thing on it after fix the flood and
Yeah, you wanna
And-
just change that to,
right, and so
change that so it passes the.
keep everybody
Meeting
safe,
test
and
and send
and it went down through the list to
Yeah.
reverse climate change and make everything pretty, You know? But I think some of those things came into the last decision, and so I wanted to put them on the list.
Yeah.
But put them as a lower priority that we can say we're gonna cut off here, something, whatever.
So I'm gonna,
You want to jump to the agenda and go through what you wanted to tell us a minute ago?
Sure.
oh, no,
You know,
just, yeah, can you scrub that however you're comfortable and
Yeah,
then send it
and
to us?
then I can
also-
email it to everyone.
And I also think we should post it
my-
too, because I think there's probably a lot of people who find that and be like, oh, these are also questions I have, like, I think that's
Yeah,
valuable information, so.
Is a useful piece of information for us to review, which I'm not sure is in those PDFs, the Richmond zoning and flood mitigation laws at this point of what we're bound legally by?
Because the federal government laws aren't as strict as Richmond, and Richmond is already, the planning commission is already in the process of potentially changing for the volunteers green. So don't worry about the flood
Okay.
mitigation stuff. I know, I've got their Bible, the code 44, it's not as onerous. Hold off on that
Okay.
I was
right
shocked
now.
that we could do that. I mean, it's like, wow, we can make our own.
We do set our own rule, yeah.
No, because Richmond, this is where the federal government is, the state comes in and interprets the federal government for you, and then the town of Richmond, boom, and my husband was the chair of the planning commission when we changed it last, and I was helping get some changes so that people who were flooded could repair things, or people in the floodplain. It used to be you couldn't even fill a
Right.
pothole in your driveway.
Right.
So we had to change the regulations. So we did that a few years ago, and we didn't loosen them up enough to help plan for the future
Yeah.
in the sense of being able to move the playground.
It's a pretty substantial, it's related to what we're talking about, but not directly at this point. But there's a very substantial difference in what FEMA sees as okay development or changes and work within the floodplain and what Richmond is permitted.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
FEMA would have places built in Florida if they didn't allow building.
And
Waterbury would
more
have. things
specifically,
in floodplain.
Development in the floodplain,
Right now. that's what they did.
Richmond has no development in the floodplain, FEMA wise, that is simply not a rule.
Yeah.
You have to do FEMA compliant development in the floodplain, which
Yeah.
is,
and we,
I mean, it's all the way down to Waterbury, you see all the garages, all the houses that are garages with houses up top.
Just down.
They just have
Route 2
flood
on-
vents and all those, I
just
mean,
down on Route
There's
2.
tons of them, you can build them and they're arguably, that's a safer building than one building
Yeah.
that's built a foot above the floodplain out of it, so it's
Yeah.
just. But anyway, so the point is that
Just so
the
you all-
planning commission's is addressing that.
Okay.
And also there's a lot of room there where we might have leeway. I don't think that it'll happen in residential stuff, But being a town building, I think there's more of a chance.
We already did that for residential
Yeah.
stuff. That's what we took care of. It wasn't the municipal side of things because the town can change the rule for themselves, but for them to change the rule for the residents was important that people could protect their property and their lives in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So that was key, but just to let you guys know. I wrote FEMA buyout grants, I wrote FEMA elevation grants, so the ones in Bolton that you're seeing elevated, I wrote those grants. It's not a problem,
Yeah.
where we're at, we might end up having one request or one recommendation to take to the planning commission or to take to the select board and say, this language just needs to be tweaked just a little bit. Do you support that? And this is the pros and cons of doing that, but we might be totally okay here.
I'm gonna go back to my,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the, it's premature Nazi, but that seems like something we don't need to pursue until we
100%.
review
And that was the
it.
question by Amy, and
Yeah.
I think we can wait.
So, but I think that's valuable info, but it's one of the many things I would asterisk that it's premature.
100%.
Okay.
We prematured it last time too, when you were gonna look for a FEMA grant.
Exactly, yeah,
Um,
but, that is gonna be one of our sticking points, I think, that, I think that's,
No,
yeah,
I think there was like
that's my take on it.
1,200,000 or something listed in the original one for site work, and I was told that half of that was required by FEMA. So I don't know what, that was
No.
something I wrote in here. This is, you know, what is that all about, you know?
The 1,200,000 is for flood mitigation and the roof to the post office, where we're two.
So it said site work, I think, in the
Oh,
handout.
Back to the docs.
There's something a
Better
little
review.
bit out of
Yep.
context I'm gonna bring up though, but as far as repair work that may have gone into our budget, that should be done outside of our budget.
Yeah.
Outside.
We should be aware of what it is, though, and that's
Yeah,
why I
and one of
brought
them
those.
is the
Well, we-
conduit for flood water that comes under the post office and wall and so forth, that must water in the basement, which requires a pump out then. That's something that I think was priced in the estimate for repairing, at least in the building. But it shouldn't be, it exists right now, and it needs to be fixed like now.
That's why, that'd be on my safety
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
of issues.
That'd be an ocean.
That'd be-
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
That'd be
Not
money
yet.
already available.
Yeah.
And so there were some items on the thing when I started looking at budget of what's planned for 25 and 26, and what does this mean and what's in it? So we'll look at those things so that we're aware of them, because you don't want to do it twice in a budget.
Right.
Going back to your agenda, Lisa, just to make sure we're checking some things off, because you know I like to do that.
Yeah, actually, Carrie, why don't we go right down the list? Some of these, yes, I mean, they've already been obliterated, so we're another
I
question.
think, well, we're down to D, because these asterisks here that Adam put are premature and we save
Well,
for next time.
It's also
potentially.
open for discussion.
I know, but we'll get to them, but I'm just gonna start with D, which was begin review of the Black River Designs drawing package that was received by Lisa.
Yeah.
We've all agreed, we're gonna review that on our own, and there's
Yeah.
nothing else for us to do with
And I
that.
will,
Lisa wrote the titles, I've reviewed it, it's never good.
That's,
Yeah, so I think that's gonna be important. I will dedicate some time to read a couple hours every night and read.
where would you guys like them to be posted? I mean, you suggested where we posted.
On the town website, under our community page, I think.
I think all, in the 10 items that you would put on there too, I mean, if those 10 could just be labeled,
Just
Okay.
where they are.
pop them right on there.
Yeah,
They don't have to
actually,
be- they don't have to be clear labels, I think they have.
I think we talked
It
about,
has a date, so.
How about when we send each other the email with the attachments of our homework, we'll group that all together as one
Okay.
packet
Mhm.
for the next meeting for us, so that we've released that information to the public, but we haven't released it before we're able to digest it ourselves.
Yeah.
And
But let's know that it's what we've been.
is that, so I know
Yes, we
you
can.
wanted to
Yeah.
post it, but
I'll
let's,
review it and then post it.
for the next agenda,
Yep, I think that's,
documents
fair.
provided to the public.
Yep.
Something
I
like
think
that.
that's reasonable, kind of like how we
Okay, so
approve minutes,
D,
whatever, and then post
we
them.
just did D. Let's see, you're saying, okay, I'd like to, well, I want to hold off on A, but I still think we should go at it.
Yeah, no, it's just premature, so it's on the
Yeah.
premature list for us to do in the future agenda item.
Yep.
But not next week, we have to get some, what
It's
we're looking at
a
for,
larger elephant that we're eating than I
Yep.
thought, so.
and we've done the brief comments from the committee,
Yeah,
That's B.
yeah, that, well, some of these will be repetitive.
Mhm.
B would be
yeah,
repetitive.
and then C, we've
C.
talked about some of the grant stuff, and that FEMA, we're
Okay.
kicking that,
D,
we did
we're-
D.
That's
and then
kind of in process.
E is decide if the design elements are to be eliminated from future plans, that's a premature. That-
And that's Mike's list also, I think,
Yeah.
some of the things that you have under.
Yeah.
The before and after list.
And then the F was beginning detailing out which portions of the renovation work, so that's premature again.
It is.
And then G, begin documenting a request to the board for accomplishing, we're premature there. We can't ask the board anything until we have an idea of what we've got going
Exactly.
on.
What we want.
BRD.
Yeah.
We don't know what to ask them yet. So.
Exactly, I mean, they are in the best position to use what's already been done, because they did it.
Oh, I'm sorry,
And
BRD, I
come
took
up
the
to speed
board.
Almost instantly.
Oh,
Black
so did I.
Black design.
That makes
Yeah, it's
sense.
not the board.
It's,
I
that
didn't
makes
do
a
all
lot
of
more
it.
sense.
But yeah, I still think. You know, I guess that's another question, or bridge to cross when we come to it. Do we quote that out again, or bid it out?
I think premature. Let's see what we got. Let's read what we've got.
Just to know
H.
that we might need to do that.
After the TC committee can define a new scope of work, so again, that's
That's later.
premature, yep. And then how much previous design work is reusable, how much will overall cost, all the A, B, C,
Yeah.
D. All are ones that we're gonna be able to look at ourselves when we look at this documentation. And then I, agenda for the next meeting, but I think Adam had to, before we talk agenda, Adam added on, J,
Well, I was just,
Yeah.
For the update on art. update on art.
I was gonna make it an update,
Art.
on our homework and art, but we did our homework kind of.
Art, or
Art.
Art.
who is
Oh, art.
who
The
is
gentleman that.
The
you met
PM
with.
guy that we met with briefly. Matt, we had talked about him, Matt's, former coworker.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay,
is, are we there?
You're there.
Yeah.
If
great.
Lisa's okay with it, we're there.
yeah.
So we met with Art briefly, not briefly, we were here for like 3 hours and we walked through the building, we asked questions of everyone that was here, we went through the entire building, we just talked about kind of broadly Matt and my understanding of the work that had been done, the process and how it was received in the town and just kind of nothing formal, we talked about that and the kind of the path forward that we, our hunch was that we're gonna do some scaled back or tweaked version
Yeah.
of any or all of that project. We didn't know where that was gonna fall.
Mhm.
We didn't really know what was critical versus what was,
Sure.
nice to have.
Yeah.
And we really were, so a lot of it hinged around the fact that we were like, yeah, we don't have the documents yet, like, we don't really know. And he was like, well, how are you doing anything? Which is kind of where we're at right now. And so where we left it with him, was that, obviously as a committee, we're gonna get some documents, we're gonna kind of decide on the path forward. And what he had offered, and I think that I actually think will be very valuable, is that this isn't me pitching this, I think this is a broader discussion, but my hunch is that there might be an opportunity to save money, time, and effort
Mhm.
by hiring a consultant. I don't know if it would be Art or not, but I because of his knowledge on the flood stuff and doing specific municipal buildings,
Mhm.
who is not the architect and doesn't have a vested interest in the drawings,
Yeah.
is not the town.
Yeah.
So he's not
Yeah.
focused on, we're all invested in this in a
Neutral third
in a
party.
different way than someone who is invested in being hired to make sure whatever, whatever we decide gets done.
Yeah.
And kind of,
Yeah, that's.
see us through the process.
Science, it kind of, it's their work.
Yeah, and I think that they're professionals
Yeah.
but I also know as a professional, I get a little focused on things sometimes.
Yes, and you do things a certain
yeah.
way.
And so I think that there would be an opportunity to hire Art or someone equivalent to that
Mhm.
to walk us through the entire process from how do we work with, this is assuming we're gonna do something on this building, right? How do we work with the design team? What questions we need? How do we do outreach? How do we do all this? In coordinating that, and I think short of having an admin person that works for our committee, if we're gonna try to do this in a short amount of time. And this update, obviously, this decision would be very, very premature, but if, say we decide, yeah, we're gonna stick with this building, we need to tear it down. We need to do all these things. I think that hiring him as, in some capacities, as an owner's rep, or pursuing someone completely different as an owner's rep, who is looking to only represent the interests of the town as they're directed by the committee. and a select board.
Yeah.
And that's a different person.
And
And a
Jay
diff-
Labar, who's currently, or who has been hired as the owner's rep on projects that have been underway the last 3 years.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah, so we have a guy who's been
Okay.
functioning as an owner, he's done a lot of work with the library project.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been on sort of a as needed basis,
Yeah.
like he had a contract for a definitive amount of time, which may have expired, but you might want to check.
So
with
this isn't
Josh
established.
about Jay.
And I do think.
Jay Labar,
Yeah.
Labarre, I think is his last
Yeah,
name.
spell it again.
I think it's Labar, Labarre. I can double check with Lori Dana. She has worked a lot with him being the head of the library trustees because he's been functioning as the owner's rep for all of the sort of smaller projects that and larger projects that have been done over the last 2.5 to 3
I
years.
wondered how that was, being done.
So that explains a lot of how these things are getting done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that has to happen.
It went to the select board because you guys had to approve his contract, so.
Yeah, okay, so I guess I wasn't there for that one. So that makes sense. There's a lot of work that gets done between the committee deciding what to do and allocating money and then actually doing the work done. And
Yeah,
He's
That-
been
that's
very
the-
good owner's rep.
that's the answer of
People
how
liked
that's
him.
getting done.
Yeah.
Jay is probably doing all that work.
Jay has been facilitating
Okay.
all of the.
how big an effort is that on his part, is that?
It's a part-time job. I
Yeah,
think at this point, he was hired, if I remember correctly, he was hired under like a certain fixed contract,
Yeah.
like, you're gonna work for this amount of time, this will be the amount of money. He's
course,
been
he pulled well,
extended a couple of times because,
Yeah,
for a lot of the different
Yeah.
things that have been going on, but he's been pretty instrumental in
Yeah.
especially taking care of Alex with Hunger Mountain for the library work and things like that, so.
And for divulging, I work with Art Hugo's wife.
Sorry, what was this?
I work with Art Hugo's wife,
Oh, cool.
so coworker.
Dude,
So I'm just divulging
Okay.
that piece of information, so it's
wasn't
not
sure if
like,
there was like,
I just
We don't
wanna,
have-
yeah,
don't want it to be
Cool.
like,
Who's-
oh, how come you knew?
I'm ignorant, who's on Google?
Art Hugo
Art's
is,
the guy that Matt and I know.
Okay, I looked at art, but I didn't put a last name. in. Okay.
Small world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah, that was my
L-U-G.
takeaway is that I didn't know that we had Jay doing
Who
that.
may or may not want to continue
You may
in that
not.
role too,
Or
but he
might
has
not.
been, or may not want to do this, exactly, he may not, but we have
Yeah, so
definitely
is
used
it
an
o-
owner's rep and it's been super
Is
helpful.
is everyone okay if I reach out to Jay and just talk about?
Yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, it's,
absolutely.
we're not decided where we're going yet, but if we do decide
Don't pay
to go
him.
this way, would
Yeah.
you like to do?
He can probably also give you a lot of information about
Yeah.
what he's been
Yeah, yeah.
overseeing too.
By the way, the budgets, I think they got down to budget V, by the end of the, when it was finally presented for the bond vote. So I simply started A, so that's how many letters of changes.
So it's not V
There's-
and five.
There's some
V is in
interesting
like A
notes,
through-
I didn't absorb all of them, but there's some interesting notes at the bottoms of some of the earlier budget things, like took this out, put this in, redid something. So you can kind of see the thinking that went into each of those changes. And that might be kind of helpful too, to explain how they
Yeah.
are, where they are,
So I guess
besides, Mike's list.
I'll reach out to Jay and just kind of just tell him like, hey, I didn't know you were doing this. It's very impressive. What do you want to tell us? Yeah. And then also feel out, and just talk to him about like, we would need someone to do some form of being a rep through the different phases from design, pre-construction and construction. And those are three pretty different phases.
Right,
And so I don't think, just from my off the cuff feeling is that art would have, someone like that would have done. Not, I don't think the construction owner's rep thing would have been his thing so much, but I don't know, maybe Jay would be comfortable, has experience doing all those. So I'll talk to him.
See his contract. I'd
Yeah.
like to see what that looks like, to
Yeah.
know what we are,
Yeah.
what that scope looks like.
Yeah.
what Josh would have that
What he's
information.
And
done.
then
So is that you're going to ask
Oh,
Josh?
I'm gonna talk, well, so for the contract, I was thinking more,
Great, so
not what
Lisa
we're
can
obligated
ask
to.
Josh for I'll put the list of
Yeah,
things to
okay.
give from Josh on Lisa's list, but I'll put the contact
Yeah,
with Jay.
I wanted more like an update on his comfort level, skill set, kind of resume thing of like, hey, as we do this, and these are our phases, like, how do you want to fit into it? How are you comfortable fitting into it? And all that, because if he's like, yeah, I don't want to do pre-construction
Mhm.
and design stuff. I love doing construction. I love doing construction, owners repping, then we need to find someone that I think either within a design team somewhere.
One thing I put at the end of my document that I wrote is looking at the old one. I don't see anywhere where, I mean, they provided a design good enough to get an estimate out of.
Mhm.
Where do we get the design documents they need for construction? I didn't see
I
any
think,
money
I
for
think
that.
that would be the next step of.
Yeah, right, but this was the quote that was on the bond, and I don't see that in here.
Right.
And maybe
Yeah.
it's buried somewhere, but I didn't
Okay.
see
The
it.
quote, the actual bond amount is one of the budgets that we have in the documents.
Yeah,
PDF, the 9.8 something million, it's exactly the same.
okay, so that's buried in, but
It's 10
Yeah.
PDF.
but this is kind of where this is what they put out for the bond.
Yeah, the design,
And maybe it's buried in there somewhere probably, but it wasn't clear to me where it
It's a
was.
large spreadsheet of things that all have prices on them,
Yeah,
but even that, you can't really tell what you're getting, it's
Yeah,
lines
yeah.
of text, so it's not a full specification.
So I put out
There's a.
on the list of things to do, you'll get that on yours, Lisa. You'll have A, B, and C. Adam's got A and B.
You're gonna email this out to everybody?
Yes, I will.
I have my own list, and I'll see if yours is shorter, I'll use yours.
And Amy's got an A and a B, so we're good. The other thing on that you had written on this, Lisa, and I want to circle back around to it to make sure if you're going back to the select board or not. At this point in time, you had said you were talking to the select board about discussing about removing the library from the town center committee scope of effort. So are we,
Let's talk
let's
about that.
circle back
I
around
don't
to that to
think-
make sure where we
I'd
land?
like to, because if we want to, I think the select board needs to make that decision, and if we're not going to. I and the rest of us have to figure out how we're gonna do ETO.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep it here. I think the library has already got a plan of action for the next 3 years. I think if they come to us, just like they went to the select board for an extra $10,000 because of the project bumping up, and they used it out of the ARPA money, that we have the ability to just prove it and say that's realistic, or give them any kind of pushback to say, maybe could you consider this? And then, so it's got a filter before it gets to the select board where it's supposed to have come to this committee first. I don't think it's a heavy burden to lift right now because they are tackling a lot of things already and they're not looking
Yeah.
to come to us with something that isn't outside the scope of what they've already gotten approved and what they're already working on.
I agree that we're not
Although
gonna be able to take the two apart and.
Yeah, coming up with things like rock, with the one in the scope would have to be addressed.
That's, I mean, I think that the total amount of effort that requires from this committee is so minimal that we keep overseeing it. I guess my one question would be, is there anyone? Is there anyone tasked with anyone associated with the library, aside from this committee, who is planning beyond that 3 years that's kind of planned out now?
Well, that's a good point, if there's.
Because I think that technically that would kind of fall on us to, I think there's a lot being done. And there's a lot of work planned and a lot of work has been done.
Mhm.
But if we don't do anything for a couple of years or for a year or two, and we're well into that 3 years, is there things that need to be planned on that we can either delegate or we can expect someone else to plan and present, or are we expected to do that?
We're just.
I think this-
raise the flag that
I
somebody-
think this committee needs to really understand that we have to have a capital plan for our two buildings here.
Yeah.
That goes into the future, just like when they planned 5 years out to buy a dump truck.
Yeah.
So we need capital planning for these structures once we have an idea of where we're at
Yeah, I guess my
for
question
this
is
one.
just.
And so
I
I'd
think
want
we're-
to see, they might already have that capital plan.
The
but we-
library trustees are, yeah,
So there is, that was my question, I
do
guess,
that
is that
planning.
the capital plan, but all the legwork that's required that needs to happen and all the work that needs to happen to get to the point where you can decide how much money you need to spend and how you're gonna allocate that.
Mhm.
We're doing that right now for this building, but is there anyone doing this for that building?
The library.
Yeah, they've already
Okay.
done it.
Yeah.
Cool, so the trustees are doing all the legwork, that
Yes.
mechanics and
Yeah.
nuts and bolts that we're doing now.
And this
That's why-
committee, or the town is responsible for the
Yeah.
exterior of the library and any, like, it's sort of like the landlord. We,
Yeah.
we were responsible for HVAC and things, but any interior work or fit up that the library wants to do, or any wall changes on the inside. That's the library's responsibility and not the
So,
town center.
I think that
funds
even more points to the fact that we should keep them as one thing, because the trustees are doing all the real nitty gritty
Yeah,
stuff.
if it's
and
not-
then-
if it's
And then it
not
would be up to
meeting
us
our-
to oversee that, their requests,
Yeah.
needs,
Okay.
all that, and keep the capital plan coherent.
And I'm not ready to understand the trust and the trust, the positions and all that kind of stuff, because I know they have a plan, so I'm comfortable with the fact that
Yeah.
somebody's doing something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But down the road, looking at what this merger with the audit has done, which is, should have been done years ago.
Yeah.
And then you start pulling money out of one fund to use for something else, you had to have merged them, or else you should be in audit trouble. But I don't wanna, I want the trustees to feel comfortable with what they're doing and what they're planning, but we just need to know future budgets.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to have to do all this work we're doing now in this committee. For that building. So if they're doing that, and Bruce overseeing capital plan,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Cool.
Really, and really,
Two of us.
the last, at least on our radar right now, the last big projects that would be a significant capital expense that might need to have, that will need to happen down the road is the roof. But we're working on trying to get grant fund, we're gonna apply for that second
Yeah,
round of grant funding for that, because it's a slate roof and it's a it's old and it's just the way to repair it. I mean, you're talking about a $260,000 project, which you're probably not gonna be able to do all in one shot anyway, but that's also not something that we're hoping we don't have to do it right away. Some of this work that they've been doing has bought us some time for some of the,
And sometimes to keep it and just keep doing the repair work,
Yeah.
because that historical roof, to take it all off and to redo it, it's
Yeah.
like, you could keep fixing it.
Or
Maybe that's
just out
the
of
way to go.
curiosity,
Yeah.
not that this is something that I need to know, but are they limited by historic?
no, we're not, no,
They're
we're
not on the
not.
list. Not on the list.
It's
Dude.
easier,
Yeah.
so.
And the roof is in pretty good shape. We flew a drone up there, the
Yeah.
Hunger Mountain Construction, and they said it's some patching. It's not like a
And
complete
flashing.
tear down and roof replace. It's flashing, it's patching, so it's,
Yep.
it's not a complete
Preventative.
disaster.
Yeah. Totally.
One off the, one, are you changing the paint color on the exterior?
What did we decide about that? No, I don't believe so. I think it's gonna be the same color.
Come on, if you're gonna paint. Have you not been painting?
It's,
No,
I think it will look much newer because there's been,
Colors,
Yeah.
why stay to the same historic?
Right, so
it looks a lot better than the old gray that was on it when I
Yeah.
moved here.
it hasn't been fully painted since 2003, so, and then this is going to be a full redo, so it's pretty faded, so I think it will look new, but, yeah.
We painted our house and it was the same, literally the same paint.
Yeah,
I brought it back and had it shook, paint the house, and my wife's like, why did you change the color? It's like, it's not, it's 9 years old.
Yeah.
It's new. So,
Yeah.
so everyone will know it's new.
Okay,
Yeah,
just was kicking that out there, like, get credit for doing some work. PR stuff.
Yeah.
We could turn it into the houses in Burlington that's got like the super, super bright, 5 different colors.
oh, like purple.
Green
and, yeah.
trim, purple.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
No, no.
You can even sign it, Kara. See, I want,
No.
Kara wanted bright colors.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want that.
I mean,
I wanted historic,
New.
new historic, so that you got credit for doing something with your taxpayer dollar.
I think it's-
Yeah, it'll be done in
building-
September.
The building already looks so much better now than it did 3 or 4 years ago.
So back to Lisa's list, Lisa,
Yeah,
that was,
okay, yeah,
that was it on your,
time's up, so let's recap and.
that was it on your
Yeah.
list, that was the last item.
I thought so, okay, cool, yes, agenda.
So you're not going back to the select board at this point in time,
No,
asking for them
I mean,
to
if
do
they ask,
anything
we'll tell them what to
different.
talk about, but they can.
You'll give them
Correct.
an update, but there's no requests, right? That's my understanding.
Yeah, at this point, then, if we're not asking for a pre-authorization, then we don't need this.
We don't need, and we don't need them
We're not-
about
it's
splitting
not
the committee.
Changing our scope of work with the library, does it.
I think you keep your select board agenda items less
Mhm.
for now. We might come to you next meeting and say, we need to know this from the select board. So,
That would be welcome news for everyone.
You know what Kara's doing? She's saving all the agenda items for budget season. So she can slam us with some 1 AM meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, October gets really serious.
Okay,
All right,
Um,
let's just recap what everybody's gonna do for next.
let me go
time.
back to the list.
And are you writing up the minutes or?
I got some,
No, we're doing the electronic
we're gonna do
version.
electronic and I
I
have
think
some,
it's a
I
map.
made a few broad notes and since we have no,
Okay.
there's action items, but there's no motions. It's not.
Right, we can,
Want me to do the to-do list?
Yep.
Okay, Lisa,
Mhm.
you've got to check with Josh on the post office list of contingencies and the last contract, based on the last contract. You've got to check with Josh on the J. Labar owner's rep contract.
Okay,
And you've got to work with Duncan
Yep.
on posting the 10 PDFs.
Yep. yeah, okay.
Adam, you have to, A, check on the energy audit and talk to Jeff about and confirm the municipal energy grant that you were talking about, and when the last audited date was. That's your A. Your B is reach out to Jay Labar, the owner's rep, and have a conversation with him. And your C is check with Matt on meeting minutes and AI.
I didn't know I signed up for C. I
You forgot that one, huh? Didn't you?
feel like it's C, you just added that on there.
No, C was way up at the beginning, but I added it after we started making your
I
list.
remember that.
That was technically your A 2 pages ago. So you're done. You got A, B, and C. I've got Amy's got A is to get the email about the committee, what's going on with the library, and an update on the library information for us. Along with her B was get the details on the combining of the funds that she wanted to expand on with us. I've got Mike getting his email scrubbed and
Yep.
sent out to us.
Yeah,
And Kara, it's got nothing to do.
Mhm.
No. We all have the homework of the 10 PDFs.
Yeah, look at the budget especially, 'cause I think there's a lot of information there that will get our juices flowing.
And then for next meeting, I have the presentation of the information on funds available. We just call it that.
I can't remember that.
Funds available are-
The
With that, I had
library
asked-
fund and the consent fund?
That had asked before was library fund, town center fund, conservation fund, ARPA money, unassigned funds. Those are the funds that I
Thank you.
drew from, and if I can find any other hidden account, I'll let you know.
$1 million.
That would be really nice.
Start doing windows, windows, the elevator, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Cause I did
The
send,
things you can do with money.
I did ask for of the town center fund and the library fund, anything that is earmarked or allocated for future years that we need to be aware of. And Connie did come back with some expenses that are predicted for FY 25 of about $50,000, and she followed up with an email that said it was for things like heat, electricity, etc. But that's double budgeting if I see it in the budget as a line item underneath the town center admin, so I've got to
It
follow.
doesn't seem like that would be the town center reserve or whatever fund. I can
Well,
have.
that's what it says, and that's what the email says, so that's why I'm like,
Sounds like that should be, that seems like an alarm bell to me, but
Yeah.
there you go.
I'll put that on my list of
There
stuff for Kara to do.
Read right here, there you go.
And I will also talk to Jeff. Cool.
I don't. Yeah, okay.
Because if you look,
Are you following up on that?
what do you think?
It's numbers, I feel
If you
like.
look at these, that's the total underneath here
Yeah.
for here. Those items.
Expense, yeah, it's an expense. So, yeah, okay,
So
cool.
that's some of the detail work I'll be digging into, along with any maintenance expenses that you predict to have in FY 24. Any leftover spending from that, any FY 25 maintenance expenses, that GL line number, so I've got all those going on here.
I added
gonna-
one on for me. I'm gonna follow up with Jesse, fire marshal.
Fire marshal was your one
I'm
from
gonna
last
I'm gonna
time.
keep following up with him, but he basically was like, yeah. Great.
Really looking forward to it.
There's supposed to be 8 of us. There's five of us, one's part-time, like, we're not gonna do a cursory inspection of your building for no reason.
Yeah.
Well, once we get our safety list, if there's something specific on it that we're concerned about and having him come in, he would have to.
He
they
did say
would have
that
to come in if
he
there's
said, if you
something.
really want me to do an inspection, get someone to call in and complain, and then.
We
I'll have to
will.
do it.
Right.
I don't think,
Trust me.
I don't think us,
We'll
like
get Mars.
an employee, yeah, or if he's like the fire department, get the fire department to send her, it's unsafe, like,
Pretty
great.
sure you know some of
Are
those
you-
people
yeah,
can
are
take
you
care of that.
Semi-qualified in that capability or capacity?
For a fire marshal?
Yeah, I mean, not that you could rate something, but do you recognize?
I mean, like cursory, like walking in and knowing like, hey, this needs to be inspected by the fire marshal, or this looks decent, I can do that, but I'm not,
Okay, well.
no, I'm not.
Some wires sticking out. of the wall.
Yeah.
But,
It's
yeah,
got some sparking looking to it. I think we can get
Yeah.
that.
There's smoke over there.
Yeah, there's a video of the guys.
I
like,
think
this
it
is
would
an
be
oak tree, and you can tell that, because the way that it is.
I think it'd be interesting to see what the fire marshal thinks of our fire escape.
Yeah, exactly.
That, you know, my first thought on that was that we already have a fire escape here and now we're gonna build a 4,000, not 400
Yeah.
tower,
Oh,
but then
that was the kind of stuff
then I-
educated to
I
him.
said,
It's
well, it turns out you have to climb out one of these windows to get to
Yeah.
it. And I said, well, just make a door, but then I looked at it and actually the outside level is about halfway up
Yeah,
there,
it's
so
not-
the door
So
would have
that's what I
to have
told him,
steps to
like,
get
hey,
up to it.
Yeah.
We have concerns, but we also have stuff that like doesn't really meet code now, and he's like,
Yeah,
well,
right, you
it
know,
doesn't
and
have to
so,
meet the code
Yeah,
now.
So,
What do you want me to tell you?
you know,
I was like, come in and tell us like,
I,
here's what it needs to look like when we do work, and he's like, I'm not an architect, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
yeah,
He's like, give me, he's like, Jesse, we've worked together for how many years? Like, just
Yeah.
come in and tell me like broadly speaking. He's like, he's like, you need to hire an architect for that. I was like, yeah, you know that. but-
I hope we don't have to build a $400,000 fire escape, but I haven't come up with a good solution.
Yeah,
Why?
I get the
Yeah, there you
sense
go.
that there's not a lot of immediate real life, like I don't think he's gonna come into this building and like, holy shit, you need to fix this and this and this and this.
One thing I know about, did anybody know what the event was with the soot coming out of it near Linda's desk?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did do the tour with Jeff.
Yeah,
And the door, he opened the door to the, behind the door in the sound clerk's office,
Mhm.
on some of the moldings, there was some black stuff. That's what I saw. I don't know if it's other parts of the building, of the
Dust.
room, but that's all I
It's
saw.
like-
He says, oh, look at this, it's
Yeah.
coming out of these vents and there's some black soot on.
Probably just.
She also had an air purifier with a filter in it, the filter was pretty.
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
Like, I wanna clarify, like, doing construction and HVAC and being a mechanical engineer, the chances there that it's black soot when we have no oil or coal fired appliances in this building at all are basically zero.
Yeah.
Probably just dust.
Maybe.
It doesn't make it better, but I think it's a very
Yeah.
dramatic
that's-
way
Soot,
to,
soot may not be the right word.
yeah.
If you're inhaling something because we didn't clean a system.
Yeah.
Take down vent, have you ever you've been to the public spaces where they've got an air conditioner in a restaurant and the thing is like disgusting?
Oh, yeah,
It's like, clean the damn thing.
Yeah.
That's what I wanna know.
Yeah.
Is there something we need to have somebody come in and professionally clean?
Somebody, you might have raised that question, can we clean the ducts?
No, I think it was Karen.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew somebody had,
Yeah,
somebody had raised that
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
That makes sense, I mean. it's
Yeah, it
probably
does.
cheaper than-
When was the last time that
But-
ductwork is there, first of all,
you know,
is there ductwork in every room? When was the last time anything was
you
clean?
know,
There might not be any ductwork. Some of it might be like literally old wooden.
Well, it's faded.
well, yeah,
It's kind of like baseline, but with a piece of
Yeah.
board, so it's
I
like.
think,
but-
Yeah,
I think if we went through with the renovations, put in a new HVAC system, all of that old stuff is gonna go away and new stuff is gonna come in.
I don't know if we need that yet.
We're
I
still
don't
gonna
know.
need to clean it.
We also need a
Right.
maintenance plan
But-
for this building.
but
We have
it
that
may need
maintenance
to be
stuff.
done
We have
before we
nobody
get
who's sort of taking care of all of this, other than,
And I
Capital
don't
plan
know how
and
we got to
maintenance,
this
yeah.
point in
Together,
time without
yeah.
having something like that already for a
Yeah.
long time.
it's basically Linda who cleans Linda, Duncan and Mary Hool occasionally who come in and kind of clean the building
Yeah.
and, they all have other things to do with their
And
time.
that's aside from the regular, let's be clear, the
Yeah.
janitorial
Right.
services that we
Right.
have, which is
Yeah.
totally different
An active
than,
maintenance contract.
Yeah.
Or a plan. that We
Yeah.
actually, like, cleaning the ducts, none of the people that work in this town
Right.
qualify
should be,
or are insured to do that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
specific thing.
yeah.
And so we need things like that we have.
You said-
Well, you
If
guys
we did
brought
have
on,
them, find out where the ducts are.
well, you guys brought on Mary Holt to do some basic things like, like the cobwebs are
Yeah.
outside in this little
Just like
portable area.
Someone
That-
must come in and like the boilers we have, those need to be, they run a gas meter on them once a year, like. That company should be able to recommend other PM stuff, or we can, there's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So-
Is that something we wanna pursue in parallel to the other stuff we're doing? Cause that seems like,
Well, it seems like if there are things that we decide maybe we're not going to
That aren't-
rebuild or
That's just
renovate,
maintenance.
that it's just maintenance,
So they
we
have-
should be getting
Well, they have
professional services.
minimum
Yeah.
$15,000 in
Yeah.
the budget to take care of things like that,
Yeah.
minimum. You guys have one line item of building maintenance under the town admin, but you might have it built into some of the other budgets too, that you pull them together and here's this total sum. So, yeah, that's where I'm like, give me my safety issues, then let's look at the things that were on the list with the 10-page PDF project to say, oh, that soot was terrible, Well, what was it?
Mhm.
Can we clean it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we do somewhere down the line, replace all of that, it still may be something we want, and it may be years before that happens, and we may want to go in and do some cleaning beforehand.
I think that's gonna be
Yeah.
the cheaper alternative for
Yeah.
H&B.
Yeah.
It makes sense. If we've already got functional ducts in place, it's pretty much the level of service they should be and not replacing.
Yeah.
This sounds great to me, because I'm looking at not spending $10 million.
Oh, I agree. We
So-
can't come back with that. If we do, we've failed. If we come back with even a close number, we failed.
Yeah,
So
If we come back with something incomplete, we failed. So there's a middle.
So thank you. I feel much more comfortable at the beginning of the meeting. I know you and I are going, I just
Well-
don't want I don't want the select board to
Yes.
direct us when I don't even know what we know yet. I don't know what I don't know yet.
That's fine.
yeah, we do
Yeah,
have
Yeah,
to.
and
we're not
honestly,
gonna ask for
Tara, thank
direction,
you.
but
I mean, you were very organized and thank all of you because I came in here knowing we needed to do something a little more formal than we did before, but yeah, we're still on a conveyor belt here. Now we.
I think we have a path forward, right? We know the actions we need to take between now and next meeting to really start having these.
And that's what they call
it.
it. So.
What we have to do too, I'm putting it on the list. Sorry, guys, I gotta put it.
No, I appreciate your organization, Kara.
Gotta put it on the
It's
list.
not on my list.
We gotta put it on the list. I don't know whose list it's gonna be yet. It kind of goes to the meeting minutes, so it's kind of on your list. We have to we have to talk about the next agenda right now. The next agenda, right? We have to talk about that right now before we leave.
Yep.
But on that would be meeting minutes approval from the
Yeah,
past
I
meeting
wrote
minutes.
this up. I left off a couple of those like essential beginning items.
So we won't do meeting minutes approval next meeting until we hear back from Adam and Matt on if we're gonna use the AI feature or not. I mean, we can approve four meetings worth of meeting minutes all at once we
Sure.
decide on what the system's gonna be.
Mhm.
If you find out about that, Matt. I'm tempted to do meeting, I'm not there yet.
Come on.
I'm not there yet. Let's go to agenda items. Let's go to agenda. I think our agenda should be this to-do list and review the
Reporting
to-do
out.
list. Yes, reporting out on the to-do list. Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
because it's realistic.
And I think we report out on the to-do list, and then the last thing we get into is the discussion of the 10 PDFs.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
the,
and that's gonna be a long,
right,
It
but the
is, and-
homework I wanna do with the 10 PDFs
Mhm.
is not talk budget first. Everybody see if you can find any safety issues in those PDFs. Come
Okay.
in with what you think the list of safety issues are.
Okay.
And then we'll talk budget and money and all that kind of stuff.
and can I add one more thing on that too? I think safety issues, one, and then other things are gonna be like, there's gonna be one other category, I don't know how to word it, but, basically. Maintenance issues or issues that are gonna make us not protect our
Mhm.
asset. So we need to make this place safe and we need to make sure it doesn't degrade more. And so those are gonna be the two primary.
Give me an example of what you would think of that we have to protect.
I guess my
Grading.
specific example would be the roof, and obviously I don't think that is an issue, but something along those lines where if we don't address this, it will not only,
Okay, because a roof isn't a safety issue if it's leaking
it's
versus,
not gonna hurt someone.
versus a stairwell
but
that
it'll-
has a broken step.
Exactly, but it'll wreck the building. In the wind, say we have
Mhm.
brickwork crumbling, it might not be a safety issue, because structurally it's not gonna fall over,
Yeah.
but it is wrecking the asset and it's gonna cost us exponentially more money.
Okay, so safety issues, and we're calling the other one protect our asset.
Mhm.
I think that
That's
those are
right.
the two things that at bare minimum, we have to do as a town. We can't do less than those. And then everything else above that would be up for
I
discussion.
have no issue with that. So that's, yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
I will say that, I walked by and Maryville pointed out to me that there was a brick involved.
Did she give you a strawberry?
She gave me 2 strawberries and told me there was 2 bricks. She told me 1 for each brick that fell out. It's like, great.
Okay, so the first thing
That's a
I,
good point. Ask her if she put them on the strawberries. She said, they're not fertilized. Good.
Lisa, how about I send you, I'll put this on my Kara list thing to do is I'll send you a draft agenda so you can work with Duncan on getting a draft out based
Okay,
on some list of
perfect.
things to
Thank you.
do.
Yeah, because I sent him that and I mean, you could, but, I'd
No,
be
you
glad-
could go
Yeah,
first.
I'd be glad.
Yeah, no, you're perfect for it.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing that.
Thank you.
Are we good with all this?
Yeah.
I feel, I thank you guys for understanding that my frustration with, need to
We all have.
get my feet, need to get my
You've got
feet
to
underneath me
express it.
first.
But yeah, I was frustrated too, because I've done a lot of projects, but not like this, not where it already existed. Most of my projects were like from the ground up, and that's a lot easier in some ways. I mean, there's a lot more ways to go wrong, because there's nothing there at first, but it's got inertia and a life of its own, so and we need to use it as much as we can.
And if Mike's stuff that's coming at us, if you're able to do that in the next 2 days before I type up a draft agenda, and there's something in Mike's list that really needs to be addressed and talked about, I might start with that,
Yeah.
because if
I
it
think I got some
impacts,
editing to do, but, yeah, I'll try to
if
get
it
that.
impacts the list of other things we're gonna get into, I don't wanna do it later
Yeah.
versus, because I know some of your original questions were some of the same ones I hadn't even.
Yeah,
Mhm. Does anybody want the drawings right now? I don't know, get something to put in.
I don't have a drive. It's a Chromebook, so it doesn't have a
Oh,
hard drive.
okay.
mine doesn't.
Follow this and remember that.
Put it in my truck, it'll disappear even more than if I swallow it.
Yeah. It's a really weird looking gizmo, but it works. It's, I've got a whole bunch of flash drives, they're all the old, the form factor, wherever. This is
Yeah,
the
but
form
now they
factor
don't.
C. It's, yeah. Well,
And I
Yeah,
appreciate
have
you
For our
offering.
minutes, or just for our minutes, or for next
Okay,
meeting, we
yeah,
got update on homework items, and then we're gonna discuss all the docs, we're gonna unload.
And the update on load items are gonna be quite a list. So the docs, the 10 PDFs that we're reviewing, the first round of homework with them is take as much notes as you want when you're doing it, don't get me wrong, but is to come up with those 2 areas for us to drill down on some. And what I identify as a safety thing might not be something you do, so then we're gonna code those to look at what's OSHA safety and what we believe is a public safety and a staff safety thing.
OSHA, NFPA, we have.
Yeah, there's all
Oh, this is
different
the
kinds
whole
of,
alphabet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Z, and it goes-
everything, but you know what I mean, something
Yeah,
that,
yeah, some
It's-
standard, right, we gotta
yeah.
put something.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to adjourn if you're good with that.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay.
All those
Any
in-
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
First thing we go through.
Could be really short minutes.
Guess I gotta put that in.
Yeah,
Motion
I guess
carried.
none of this was official, because we didn't, we vote this, but I can't do that.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Sorry,
You-
whoever's
you
listening, I
opened
don't
it.
see anyone in the Zoom, so we have a free,
And you opened it, you're good.
yeah.